Hi everyone, I'm Philip from E-Music Bulgaria. My guest today is a person who loves synthesizers, groove boxes, and music production. What he's also doing for the love of music are to write and easy to understand manuals for one of the most inspiring music making machines nowadays, like the Luch Octatrack, Teenage Engineering Copy 1, and so on and so forth. Let me introduce you, Neil from SynthDawg. Hello, Neil. How are you doing?
Hey, Philip. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Let me start with my first question. What is your musical background? Are you into electronic music? Because it seems you love synthesizers and groove boxes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always enjoyed music, listening to music and, going to gigs. And I usually like music that's got guitar and synthesizer. So, bands like LCD Sound Systems and, Future Islands and things like that. So even though I do like electronic music, I still have this my heart still got this kind of gravitation to some guitar music and some kind of indie kind of stuff. And I grew up in the punk kind of era. So bands like The Clash and, Joy Division and, bands like that really inspired me. So we did the kind of kids garage band stuff that never really went into, being a musician professionally. But later in life, I did some music production courses at Point Blank, mastering, mixing, things like that. Mm-hmm. And of course, then, more around the technical side rather than the music making side of late.
Okay. And how did everything start? How did you come up with the idea to write such technical guides when they are already official ones from the manufacturers?
Yeah, I think it was partly due to my own frustration. So all the gear that I write about is something that I own, I use in the studio. And I got frustrated with trying to figure it out and spending more time trying to understand what it really meant and moving from page 22 to page 68 and all this kind of stuff. So I really, it happened by accident. I made my own notes to try and get to understand some gear better, Machiner at that time, and a few other things. And then I converted those into kind of more typed notes and diagrams. And then it just emerged into thinking, other people might benefit from this. So, that's really how it started. It became a bit of an happy accident in some respects.
Okay, and what was the first official SynthDawg manual that you did?
The first official SynthDawg manual was the OP1. Mm-hmm. And, I have this kind of attraction to equipment that fascinates me. The things that intrigue me most are the ones that seem to kind of draw my attention. So the OP1 I bought, and it's another one that, you read the manual, and the manual's online as well. Bear in mind that, the way that, modern organizations present some of the documentation is very online, not necessarily a manual as such these days, but more a online guide. And of course, there's always videos, which is great. There's some good people that do some great videos, but I just felt that the OP1 needed something that were more of a companion, something you could sit alongside it and just kind of pick bits and polarize certain elements like the tape and really get to know it better. So the OP1 were the first official SynthDawg manual, and I guess it started there.
Okay, but beside the manuals listed at SynthDawg webpage, were you involved? Were you hired to write manuals for other companies, for example?
Yeah, it's always been something that I tried to avoid originally. So, I really wanted to kind of focus on the things that I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be constrained by deadlines or, design criteria that didn't fit the SynthDawg ethos. And the SynthDawg ethos is dead simple. It's really about, providing a guide that can be customized by the user so they can make their own notes. It's done in a style that is from a user perspective, not necessarily from a manufacturer's perspective. And I always saw that manufacturers would say, this is the filter and this is the filter control. It would say what it is. It wouldn't really say how you use it and how you can get the best from it and how it interacts with something else. It was very much a kind of a list of specifications. So I always wanted to not steer into the kind of manufacturer's realm. And then SynthDawg approached me regarding the new update on the version 3 of the OS for Deluge. And after a lot of discussions, because again, I weren't 100% sure, but what really swayed me is that I could see their passion for their product. So, you know, the people that work in SynthDawg and Ian, who I was speaking to at that time, convinced me that they wanted to bring that SynthDawg ethos on into the manual for Deluge. So I said, okay, then let's give it a go, see how it goes. And 350 pages later in a printed manual, and then you look at it and you kind of step back and think, wow, that's something special. And you know, so going from not really wanting to work with manufacturers, I focused on that. But what it did make me realize is that I should be really selective. So I don't want to be freelance. I don't want it to be anybody calls, here's the price, I'll commission some work. So I've chosen to work with a few companies, MSX Sound Design, who manufacture iOS apps and also sample packs. And it's been great working with MC Michael from MSX, but also from Modback Modular. So on the modular side, I've been working very closely with Corey from Modback Modular, who, and to be honest, it's more of a real collaboration. So I've been part of the design specification and working with Corey to explore new ideas. Yeah, write the manual, but of course, it's good to be involved at an early stage and to be involved in the design choices and to influence. You know, Corey's got a very clear vision on how the Modback Modular direction should be, and I share that vision and hopefully help inspire that direction with Corey. So very selective on the manufacturers that I choose to work with, and I have to feel part of the project, not just a manual writer.
Okay. But all your manuals are in PDF form, right? So there are no hard copy versions of it. Just
there's the Deluge manual that were done paper. This is an older version, but the paper copy, and again, like I said, 300 pages. And that when you get it in your hands, it's kind of it does make a difference. So I get why a lot of people are asking for an hard copy, and it's something that I have been exploring. And you know, I've got my son involved with some of the project stuff and some of the logistics and the website stuff, and we keep kicking the idea around of should we do a series of printed versions, even limited edition. And the two things that keep kind of stalling is, firstly, it's an onerous task to create a book. You can do drop shipping, but to have it shipped, to do it in the right quality, to get it to the right people, the logistics of it is the first one. And then the second one is, you know, the price of a cup of coffee for the PDF manual would then convert to, you know, 30, 40 euros, dollars for a printed manual. Would people really want to pay that? So they're two open questions. You know, I'm still waiting for people to convince us on that topic, but and I would like to do it, but right now it's kind of, it keeps moving up and down in the priority list.
Okay, yeah, I'm an owner of the Digitact and Digital manuals. They are really constructed in a better way than the usual manuals that we're hearing from Electron. So great work, but. Yeah, that's a huge amount of work, and you definitely have to enjoy the process. But I guess at some point there are also challenges, because besides understanding what a particular synth or groovebox is capable of doing, and really do the deep dive, you should also have to have some sort of design skills in getting all these technical drawing, I guess, properly, right?
Yeah, it's a very good question, that, Philip. I have a technical background, So, I did so electrical and electronics engineering and electrical diagrams and things like that, I'm quite familiar with. But also in the family, there is a bit of a kind of art streak, if you like. My brother is, he does a lot of artwork. And so it's not an unusual kind of environment. But I wanted to keep the design. I had a very, very clear view of how I wanted the design to be. It had to be personal, so people could make it into their own notebook. It had to be as simple as possible. So hence every diagram is designed not full, colourful, intimate, kind of artistic. It's designed to be very simple, like two colours if I can, unless there's a necessity to use others. So I had a very clear design. And what that means is it's evolved into a workflow that now can translate into any books. So it speeds things up a bit. So the line diagrams, the architecture diagrams, the flow charts that I put into the manuals, it's very, very much become a bit of a workflow now and makes it easier to translate that into different topics. So what you tend to try to do, I guess, in music is to have a workflow that allows you to make music fast, and then you buy new gear and it sends you off in a different direction. What I tried to do in the artistic part is not get diverted by other, design choices and stick to a method that people seem to like. So that's what we'll stick with.
Okay, thanks. But what was the most challenging menu you did write? You mentioned the Luge, which is a really complex machine, but also there is an Octatrack, which is also a very deep, very, very complex machine. What was the most challenging menu you did write?
I think the two are the ones you've just said for different reasons. I think the Deluge were challenging because, the first time I'd worked with another company, there was some kind of, and by the way, SynthDawg are in New Zealand. So the time zone between the UK and New Zealand is not easy just to pick the phone up and have a chat about various topics. So, the timeline made it difficult on Deluge more than anything else. On the Octatrack, I think everybody thinks, I know Digitact, I know Digitone, I know this, I know that. And they dive in, and it's not the same translation. You can't automatically assume you will pick Octatrack up if you know the other stuff. So there is some DNA from the Electron kind of design, of course, but the Octatrack, what I found really difficult is there's some fantastic elements in Octatrack, some really powerful features, so powerful that not many people actually use them or know they exist. So there were a lot of exploration to try and fully understand and fully appreciate some of those things. Like the arranger, for example, in Octatrack. So I think those two were the most difficult for two different reasons.
Okay. But were you also involved in any design work, like, for example, designing musical instruments?
So I've given input onto the, to MSX and to Modbap. In fact, what we did on the, I've got this here, what we did on the Performer, the first module released by Modbap, I designed the front plate for the special edition version, because when we were designing it, I was making jokes that this is kind of like an arcade, and it was designed to be like an arcade.
Yes. And
I would make jokes of game over every time we had a meeting. So we designed this inspired by, 1980s gaming consoles, you could say. As a design, but also, not just the kind of design and aesthetics of the instrument itself, giving some design on the functionality. So, I'm quite proud that Performer and Osiris from Modbap, Corey has been very receptive to any ideas and thoughts about what we could include. So there's some things that I've contributed to in terms of the software and the operating system. To some extent, the same with MSX, lesser extent, but definitely very receptive to that collaborative approach.
One question in regards to the people who did buy your manuals. What can you recommend to your readers? Should they go through the guide from A to Z to fully understand the synth or the groove box, or they can just focus on certain sections?
Yeah, it's designed so they can focus on certain sections. So sometimes if you read the book, sometimes it almost it's got a refresher and it's got self-contained parts. So some quick reference stuff appears, or MIDI charts appear into the MIDI section rather than like the manufacturers put a lot of this stuff in the appendix at the back. So I've designed it so that the sections are self-contained. You could, and in fact, one of my recommendations to people is if they get some new gear and buy a SynthDawg manual is to pick the topics, pick a section and say, today I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on patterns. I'm going to work on sequencing, or I'm going to work on effects. And the manual's designed to be kind of self-contained around that area. So my advice would really be to decide what topics you want to learn today. The manual can sit alongside and help through that. And I guess the other bit of advice is don't overlook the things that might not seem that interesting at the start. And, one thing I've learned through writing all these manuals is some of the powerful stuff and some of the kind of stuff that kind of differentiates you as a musician even can exist under the surface if you look hard enough and are prepared to invest a little bit of time to understand it.
Yeah. Right. Okay, what's next on the radar? What are your future plans in terms of the website itself?
So there's a couple of things. So still working with Modbap, of course, a couple of other topics around that kind of manufacturer side. The Deluge OS 4 is due to be released. So Rowan's working on that from Synthstrom, and it's now gone into beta, so I think it's a public beta. So the Synthstrom update of the Deluge manual is, I would say, 90% there. There's a couple of quick references that I want to complete on just some modular gear. And I think then the next device is Tracker, Polyend Tracker.
Oh, one of my favorite.
So I'm almost, I would say I'm kind of 30% through that. So I reckon maybe sometime in the next month, maybe 6 weeks, then maybe that will be ready to be released. And again, it's another one of these devices that it's difficult to get your head around to start with, but when you do, it's incredibly fun and powerful.
And once this is ready, so I'll be one of the first guys that is going to buy this, because first of all, I love your manuals, and second of all, I love Polyend as a company, and I strongly believe that Polyend is one of the producing right now, especially for me, one of the most inspiring instruments. And the Tracker is really special, and I like it a lot. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I fully agree with you. I think Polyend's got some great gear. The Tracker is an unusual device. It's brought something different to the market. It's fun to use and more powerful than I think, people think. So hopefully the book will be a good complement to that as well.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, Neil, anything else that you want to mention? Where we can find your work, SynthDawg page, any social media, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to contact me is through Instagram. So it's SynthDawg, synth, DAWG, and an underscore at the bottom. Instagram, is probably the most first place I usually go to keep in contact with the community. Twitter as well. There's a mailing list on the website that I always try to at least keep people updated on the mailing list first with anything that's been released and updated, etc. So I would suggest Instagram is the first point of call for me, and I'd always connect with people and like to keep that community active.
Thank you very much once again. Anything else that you want to mention to me, or maybe questions that you have?
No, I just thanks for inviting me, and if there's anything you need, Philip, just give me a call. That, and let's just stay in touch. So I've enjoyed it. So thank you very much.